Welcome back. Listen Up is looking at the need of 30,000 children awaiting adoption in Canada. And we now turn our attention to what happens when they reach the end of the waiting and are still without a parent. That can be known as extreme adoption, adopting young adults who have timed out of foster care and are on their own but still without a parent. Their vulnerability is a leading cause of homelessness, but it's also an opportunity to care.
When I was 5, my mom had already divorced my father, and she was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar and put into a mental institution. And she called CPS, which is Child Protective Services in the States, and asked them to take her kids away.
How many foster homes were you in as a child?
22.
That's a high number, Stace. What was that like?
It is. It was difficult. I was in 2 of them long-term, where it was more than a year. The first one was 5.5. The second one was 3. And then after that, in a 6-month period, I went through 20 different foster homes.
What did that do to you?
It made me resent foster homes. I didn't want to go back. I was tired of being told that I wasn't wanted and that I didn't mesh well and that, you know, whatever excuse they could come up with, that it wasn't working out. So I just ended up not wanting to be part of that environment, and I wanted to try something else.
That something else was New Horizons Christian Academy, a boarding school for troubled teens. It was there that Stacie began to heal the wounds from a hurting past and where she was introduced to the person of Jesus.
I knew who he was, and I had accepted him as my savior, in that he died for my sins, but that was it. There was no relationship. I didn't want another relationship that could let me down.
For Stacie, the pain of her past made it hard to trust, almost impossible to hope.
I never really felt like I was ever going to get adopted. When I was 16, I told the court to take me off the adoption list because nobody wants older kids. It wasn't until I was like 17 that I accepted that I was never going to have a real family.
Teetering on the brink of homelessness, Stacie would never guess that her dreams were about to be realized.
I was 19 and I had graduated from high school, and I went into the military. And the military gives you leave, you know, every so often. And I would have to go back to the boarding school because I had no place to go. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that I wasn't able to detach from that. They knew I needed to kind of sever the cord and to move forward, but I couldn't because I had no place to go. And so they kind of got together and they were like, look, someone needs to take this girl in. Like, we can't keep letting her stay here. And that's when John and Rachel Stark offered their home to me.
With 4 children of their own and an income already spread thin, the Stark family opened their home and their hearts.
I did feel loved. Like, I did feel like they weren't doing it out of charity, that they actually did care about me. But there's still that feeling of being a burden, and maybe that if you're too much of a burden, that they'll say, okay, it's enough, we can't do it anymore. And so I was just, even though God had presented it to me, I was still waiting for the left shoe to drop.
As Stacie's perception of what a family meant began to be repaired, so too did her image of God.
That all changed because my father, showed me that, yes, he can be firm with me and he can confront me and you know, discipline me in a way that my age should be disciplined, but he still loves me. And that God is the same way. He understands that we're sinners and that we're gonna screw up, but in the end, he still loves us and he will always be there for us.
Where would you be without your family now?
I would be alone, and I would probably, and this is probably a stereotypical answer, but I would probably be pregnant with kids, because a lot of kids that grew up with my background try to find love and acceptance from a baby. I would be probably not in university. I probably wouldn't be married to the man that God had set for me. I'd be married to a guy that I wanted, whether it be healthy or not.
Stacie credits John and Rachel Stark for modeling the possibility of a healthy marriage. And on a sunny July afternoon, with her adoptive family by her side, Stacie took another leap of faith at family and a walk down a wedding aisle.
One of my favorite pictures is when I'm standing in the middle and they're both kissing me on the cheek. For years I thought I was going to have to do it by myself, and that's the most terrifying experience, is walking anywhere by yourself in front of people.
It's what every bride dreams of and hopes for. What did it mean to you to have John walk you down the aisle as your father?
There's no words, really. It meant that I finally had a family, and that I was loved, and that they were mine, and no one could take them away from me. So, yeah, I said I wasn't gonna cry. But whew. So, yeah, and the kids were just as excited. The little boys were strutting their stuff in their tuxes, and the girls felt amazing that they were part of it. So, I didn't feel like I took away from anybody. I just added another member to their family, and Anthony's just another brother to them. So it's awesome to know that they have such big hearts, and yeah, there needs to be more people like that. So
For Listen Up TV, I'm Ricky Ratliff.
When we return, as an adopted Canadian, I'll share my thoughts on why this story needs a little more persistence. That's coming up in The Wrap.